Hello and welcome to 27 by 40. My name is Chris.
This is Evan.
This is episode 6, and this week, 1979.
Yeah, so this is our, visual
It's our
podcast where we do basically our top 5 favorite posters of a specific year each episode. Mm-hmm. We just, show them and talk about why we like them. And doesn't necessarily pertain directly to the movie itself. It's could be a poster for a movie we don't even like or haven't even seen, but we just think it's a really good poster.
This is purely on the poster itself.
Or vice versa, there could be movies that we really like the movie, but the poster's nothing really to talk about, so it might not be included, on the list. It's not our top movies of that year, it's just the top posters.
Yeah. We have another podcast for those.
Yeah. So what's interesting here, I think, is obviously this is a big year. A lot of really big
releases.
Classic movies from 79. A lot of great posters too. I had a bit of a tough time with this one, not almost too spoiled for choice.
Oh.
I could have made a whole nother list of alternate stuff that I liked almost the same as the ones that I picked.
Oh, okay.
That I did
I usually have a lot of also rans, but this
I do not normally. Normally this is actually pretty hard to do. I might have one or two things that I was I was sort of considering it, but then when something else came up, it was oh, well, that's clearly more. Whereas with this one, I had to really kind of fight to be which ones am I going to include? Because of when we when we do our normal our top 5s on what we've watched, it's we can just go and we can be okay, well, here's the list, and then here's 6 honorable mentions or whatever we can talk about at the end. But it's a little bit different with this because of the visual aspect. It's we're not going to necessarily have pictures of all of the ones we didn't pick, so it's a bit hard to kind of reference them a little bit. Other than we can just sort of say I also liked blah blah blah, which we do. I mean, we do that. We do have honorable mentions and stuff on here to a degree. Yeah. But I kind of try to avoid as much as I can just for that reason. And also just
I avoid it just because I don't want to have to edit in more pictures into the video.
And also just it keeps it kind of pure.
Yeah.
But
focus
for one like this, it was wow, I could have gone in a totally different direction. I got to the point where I was almost I'm gonna swap some of these out just because several of them are starting to be kind of similar.
Oh, interesting.
Very similar color palettes and stuff, and it's I really like all these, but maybe I don't want as many that are so similar in visual style, and I want to mix it up a little bit. So I was let's bring in some other ones that I also really like, but to decide on what stays and what goes, and then the order.
Yeah. Really
tough on this one. Huh. But not in a bad way, just in a spoiled for choice way.
Yeah. I had the exact opposite. For me, this is when I got my final tally of posters I was going to pick my top 5 from, I only had 9. I had my least amount of posters ever for this year.
But that's still a lot. That's still double what you need.
Yeah, basically. I guess. Usually I have 12 to 15.
Well, your standards are too low.
I guess that's maybe I just like a lot of different. Well, often
because to me, if you're doubling
but I run into that case it's a lot of times I'll have 12.
Yeah.
But then I have that situation where these 3 are very similar. Yeah. That's why I got them, because I like that. So I just got to pick which one I like the most.
No, I mean, I agree with that. And that's I'm fine with that. But it's where in situations like that, it becomes a little more granular, and it becomes a little more
yes.
This small little thing that I don't like as much about it, that's enough to get rid of.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And you got to start getting real focused on.
Also something, and this is probably because of the year.
Yeah.
It is, I think, so far the most varied in terms of poster style.
Yeah.
It's, this is
I would say
there's stuff from all that 80s and early 90s stuff.
Yeah.
There's posters like that in here. Yeah. There's very 70s posters in
I would
here.
agree.
There's painted posters.
I would agree for sure overall.
Yeah.
But I would say that there was definitely 2 major styles that like that recurred the most, or that was the most sort of
prevalent.
Prevalent, yeah.
So we'll see how that pops up when we do our list here.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna start off here because that's how I numbered them.
Okay.
With my first one.
Okay.
And it's the extremely simple poster of the China
Very
syndrome.
minimal there.
Yeah. There's actually even a more minimal poster than this, where it doesn't have the yellow text at the top.
Wow.
It's just, but I couldn't find a good copy of that one. So, and I wasn't 100% sure if that was an official poster either.
Yeah.
But
for me, I'm not so into these types of ones because I do like the minimal thing, but for me, if it's gonna be the minimal thing, then like what's left has to still be like attractive to my eye, and I just like
it didn't do it for
that
you,
logo isn't really.
I just found it so like instantly like evocative and like
the logo to me looks like it'd be like a.
It looks like a neon sign a bit.
Yeah, like a diner or something. Like it's like the name of a diner.
Don't eat at the China Syndrome.
Yeah, like hey, let's go grab lunch at the China Syndrome.
Yeah. Well, because it's got that. Yeah, because all the letters connect in that way that like neon has
but
to.
Again, like it's. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that from my personal. I'm not saying you're wrong.
Yeah.
Like it's your own. It's your own.
It's
preference, right?
Yeah. Oddly enough, despite it having 3 actors that I quite like, I have never actually seen the China Syndrome.
I think I have, but it would have been a very long time ago, and I don't really remember too much.
All I remember about it is...
I'm not sure. I think I have.
Like, I remember hearing about it when I was younger, and then it was, like, scary. Like, because, like it implied scariness because of the, like, what takes place during the movie.
Sure, yeah. The subject matter.
Yeah, the subject matter, yeah. But, I mean, geez, with the knowing what it's about and, like, seeing that they, just very, like, you set this movie in 2020 and call it the COVID syndrome or something like that, and it's got the same vibe. Yeah. But yeah. So that's my super simple. Really like the yellow on the black. The popping.
Yeah. Like I say, I mean, normally I'm all about. I'm all very happy to go with the minimal things, but it's just like if it's gonna be the minimal, it's what's left has to appeal to me, and that one just
this one doesn't do it
for me. But you know, that's just my personal.
It is
my personal taste.
From my own point of view, in terms of like how I also like minimal posters. It is a little like even a minimalist poster. If I could have preferred one that was like maybe minimalist with like the minimalism was still like had some art to it.
Yeah.
But this has nothing. It's just black background. All right, so that's my number 5. So your number 5.
Yeah. So specifically, I wanted a black hole because I think that logo is so cool.
Yes.
The like twisting, basically being sucked into a
it's
black
the best
hole
version
logo.
of all the posters.
And the regular theatrical poster, I'm not sure exactly what this poster is for. It's definitely a vintage, like it's not like a later poster or anything, but maybe it's like an international release or something. But the regular theatrical poster is that really weird, like greenish.
Yeah.
It's sort of like a computer, like an old style, like computer picture sort of. And that didn't appeal to me so much. Even this one is kind of borderline. Like, there's nothing really that special about it, except for that logo, which is so cool. And I felt like I had to get a black hole. Stylizing the name of your movie in such a way that almost makes it like a little difficult to read is always a dicey bet. Yeah. But the way they did it works
here, even though literally the word "the" is backwards and upside down, it is so completely legible because of how they did
curve.
it. Your brain just naturally reads it and does all the work.
What it actually kind of makes me think of,
I could have done without the cast of the top, the painting of the cast.
And I was going to say, like the way that it's done with like the cast and the picture and stuff, it kind of reminds me of how like on some of the other episodes of this that we've done, we've talked about this where like the Disney movies, how there's always like the more cartoony like kids kind of poster, and then there's like the more like arty like adult kind of poster. And this kind of feels like this is like the arty adult version of the black hole because you look at it and you're just like, well, there's no indication of like, wait, this is a Disney movie.
Yeah.
Like you would think it would just be this. And granted, I mean, for a Disney movie, and obviously it is kind of a little bit darker and a little more adult, but
it was their first PG movie, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. But yeah, well, their first live action at least.
Right.
No, I guess it would have been the first overall because the first animated one was the Black Cauldron. After this.
Yeah, that was
so. Yeah, it would have been their first one overall.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a big proponent of this movie. I don't think it gets enough praise. I hadn't seen it.
It's come up on the pod a few times.
Well, yeah, because I hadn't seen it for a while, and then when Disney Plus first came out,
right,
one of the first things I would watch on there was the Black Hole, because I was like, I haven't seen this in a while, and I have fond memories of like all that craziness at the end. Like that ending is like quite famous for like just how wild it gets, and I was pleased to find that not only did the things that I remember that stood out to me age well, but like everything else that I didn't really remember also was awesome. So I feel like this is just a movie that doesn't get enough credit and isn't talked about enough. So I'm always wanting to bring it up a little bit more of that. And I feel like that between that and that logo, I felt like I had to include it. And also, like I said, there was I was running into a bit of an issue of having like too many things that looked quite similar. So I was like trying to mix it up a little bit.
Well, this definitely is not going to look like anything.
Yeah, and I was trying to mix it up a little bit, but I really don't like that regular theatrical poster. So I was just like, is there an alternate poster that is more? And I was like, this is good enough. But I was like, I'll put it at the bottom just because it's not like amazing. It's there basically just because the logo, and wanting to talk about the Black Hole because it's awesome. That's it.
While poking around, I found a really good like modern, because like doing like real like super minimalist posters is like a very like modern thing. Like somebody just recently had done a version of this where it's got the Black Hole, the text just like that, like all curling like that down, like kind of at the bottom of the screen, the bottom of the poster, and the rest of the poster is just kind of like this real like dark black or blue, and then the only other thing in the poster, like kind of taking up the majority of the poster, is just Maximilian's eyes, the eye thing just right across the whole poster.
The other thing too, one last thing that I will mention is that, you know, we've talked about this, that I'm not a big fan of the extraneous large text on posters, but a good snappy single line tagline can be pretty awesome, and a journey that begins where everything ends is a pretty awesome one. I was like,
because it kind of like it means it tells you lots, but also kind of means nothing.
You know, it's a great tagline. So that was also another big plus for this poster. All right, so that's my
your 5. All right, so my number 4. This particular Mad Max had a lot of different posters, and most of them are just sort of pictures of Mel Gibson from throughout the
So the original.
This is what I think of. That's
the North American. That's the American,
and nothing. I mean, this does not appear in the movie like this mask, this whole. You know, like it's vaguely reminiscent of his costume, but not really.
It's an artistic interpretation. I mean,
it's the heavy metal cover.
He does
of
have
Mad
the
Max.
gun. He has like the leathers. He has various aspects of it, but it's definitely an artistic interpretation.
And I think it's just as a piece of art, it's awesome.
Obviously the original Australian poster is the blue one. That's just like the screenshot with like the blue filter, not filter, but whatever the blue
coloring on
it.
Overlay.
But like that one is a very sort of typical like 70s ish movie poster type of, like it's a very kind of like old fashioned typical type of very 70s. Not so into that. But this is the American poster, and probably the one that we would have got here too, because usually it's lumped together because domestic release would be usually U.S. and Canada. So this is definitely the one that I remember. Even though I didn't see the original film when I was like young, super young, like I didn't see it when I was like a kid.
Yeah.
But I remember this poster. Like I remember that, like, because this would have been like on the cover of the tape and all that kind of stuff. So
I mean, that's probably where I recognize it from, like as a kid, like just seeing it on the VHS tape.
So this is that, and it is great. It's awesome. I love that sort of like slightly artistic license interpretation, but it's still like not complete bunk. Like because I mean, especially in
I had last episode, some of those sci-fi ones were like none of this appears in the
which is extremely common in like especially like artistic posters and box covers and stuff, because they're all
especially anything sci-fi.
They're all about grabbing your eye and like making you interested, and they often are just complete BS. And this one, at least, like, it's, there's some interpretation, there's some artistic license taken, but it's still in the ballpark, you know? And great logo.
Yes.
So, good layout. And,
The maximum force of the future. Which is, again, it's a kind of a one-liner that kind of means nothing.
Yeah.
But, like, and I mean, if anything, is, like, actually kind of, like, it's kind of nothing, has nothing really to do with the movie. Like,
it's snappy. It's attention grabbing.
Yeah, the poster seems to indicate that he's a kick-ass cop in a post-apocalyptic future. Yeah, that's not what that movie's about. I also thought it was interesting in the credits on the poster there, where music is listed first.
Yeah,
which is like,
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. And like all the way down to like directed by George Miller with Mel Gibson. It's like basically like almost the last thing, which is but it's also a different format than that. Usually
it's a little different.
But yeah. So all right. So I guess on to your number 4.
Yeah. Oh, look, it's Mad Max. So this is the international release.
This is a good one too. Yeah.
I was very highly debating whether to go with the American one, which we just saw on your pick, or the international one. I decided to go with
this scene. Definitely does not happen in the movie.
Yeah, this one is an even further artistic license. Kind of. I mean, it's pretty close.
I mean, it's still, he's got the leathers, the interceptor.
Yeah.
I have to say,
Obviously,
I like the more Mad Max in metal with the lightning.
Yeah.
Like, where it looks like a hood ornament, more like, I like it. Or,
it's got a little bit of a different tagline: when the gangs take over the highways, praise out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Which I'm pretty sure that tagline was on the Australian version as well, but obviously the art was completely different. Well, there wasn't really art.
Yeah.
I decided after some debate to ultimately go with this one because I just felt it was the most, like, I was very familiar with the American one. Like, that's the one that I remember. That's the most, like, but this one was kind of like a discovery for me because I was like, obviously, it's like, because I had to look it up because I'm like, well, where did this come from? Like, what is the story behind this? And what it was because American International, AIP, they got the U.S. rights.
If it's international, does it automatically make that American?
They have the American rights, which is what the regular poster that we just saw and that we're familiar with is. But this one is Warner Brothers. It says distributed by Warner Brothers, a Warner Communications company. And it turns out Warner Brothers got the distribution rights for basically the rest of the world. So you have like the Australian release, the American release, and then everywhere else, which was the Warner Brothers release, which is what this was for. And I just liked this one because it was a bit different. It's the most like...
It's very action-packed. I mean, they're both action-packed, but this one's got a lot of... Well, this one's got speed lines.
Yeah,
right?
It's the most eye-catching for me. It's the most, like, over-the-top in, like, a way that I feel... It oversells, like, because obviously it's definitely, like, what the Mad Max franchise feels like, but not so much that first movie, because that first movie is obviously a lot more modest, let's say. Still very, very good film, but not what it would become. So
I love that the art is actually breaking the bounds of the like
like the sides of the car go outside.
I love that stuff. I love that.
Oh yeah, well that adds to the dynamic. Yeah, that adds to like
feels like it's really coming at
like
you.
It's 3D almost. You know, no, I really liked it. It is completely ridiculous and over the top.
He's explosions. He's standing on the car,
and that's what I love about it. I just felt but.
He's either standing on the car or he's enormous and the car just drove between his legs. One of the two.
Well, I think you're looking for logic that is not really...
No, it's just a composite.
It's just a bunch of different things that are put together.
Yeah.
But I really like that logo. So it was a tricky decision because obviously the American one, which you just had on there, like I kind of like that we got both because definitely it was between those two. Mm-hmm. The American one is definitely the more familiar. It's the one that is like, yes, like that's Mad Max. Whereas this was like kind of a little bit of a left turn, but that's kind of excited me, and that's kind of what made me want to pick this one. So
it's good. That's good. I'm glad we got them both on there.
That's why. Yeah, well, I'm very glad we got them because it was a tricky decision to go with this. So I mean, for anyone out there, if you look it up, you'll see even like Wikipedia. If you look up the first movie on Wikipedia, you'll see what they use on there is the original Australian release one, which is just like a very like typical 70s kind of poster. Nothing really wrong with it, but doesn't really stand out. It's not as awesome as these, but it's easy to find. So that's the other kind of major one that would have been, because obviously it's an Australian film.
Well, it's definitely when doing this, it's definitely have a mind like. And if you watch a lot of movies and you're, of a certain age, well, what I mean is like around
old.
Yeah, if you're older, like around, around our age and stuff, you know that like a certain kind of movie is going to have like, well, this movie's probably got like 3 or 4 posters.
Yeah.
Because like most movies probably have one with slight variations.
And the tricky bit is just to make sure that you're not taking like an illegitimate, like a modern, like somebody is just like a fan poster that someone just made now, which you can usually tell pretty good.
But a lot of it is like when I like my process generally for this podcast is I just like open Wikipedia to the year and I just mouse over each of the titles and it gives me,
it'll usually
because sometimes it will show me a movie like in this case it showed me the Mad Max one and I'm like. I was like, well, I know Mad Max had other posters in that, and so
9 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, generally on the Wikipedia one, it will have whatever was the basic original theatrical release poster, which is good. Like, I'm glad that's the way they do it because that's your.
But sometimes you got to go international.
That's your baseline that you're working from. But with a movie like this, where it originated in another country and then was brought over. Obviously, that's going to kind of muddy the waters a little bit more because for us, the original poster was the one that we just saw that you showed because that was the
and for the rest of the world, it was this one. Unless you're in Australia, in which case that's the one.
And so like I never saw the Australian one until just until now until looking it up, but technically that is the original poster because it was released in Australia first, obviously. Anyways,
we're not that picky with this. It's
as long as it's not just some like somebody made it in Photoshop in 2020.
Exactly
for like a vintage movie. Like that's not really a fair. Because that's not a real poster. All right, so it'll be your
my number
3.
My number 3, Alien.
Okay, it is also my 3, the exact same one.
Well, so, I mean, this is the poster. Yeah. I mean,
there is a slight variant to it, but it's basically the same.
So
mine's just smaller than yours.
It is such a again like very minimalist,
pretty minimal.
I mean,
it actually has something on it. But it's still pretty minimal in that like no cast, no background, no
just the tagline of taglines.
One of the most famous taglines of any movie.
So much so. That this doesn't even have
top 5 taglines. That's what we should do.
That's I've thought about it, but it's
because there's a few that I am just that I love so much and that make the movie. Like there are some that are just
there's taglines like you think of the movie, you think of the tagline. Right. I mean this one, even the Alien, where like the title is not. Like in the like recognized Alien font at this point, like that hadn't even been a thing. It's just in like super plain.
I like how it has the separated,
like super stretched out. Space.
5-letter
Space.
Yeah, it's just like a 5-letter title, but it puts it all across the screen. But it's very plain lettering.
Yeah.
Love it. It's great.
You know, got the.
You found a much nicer one than what I found.
Well, the one on the Wikipedia was like really low res, and so
I went searching, but I didn't find one as good as what you found.
it kind of interestingly enough, though, like specifically showing like the egg splitting this way. That's not actually something that worked.
No,
like, that's
not at all.
That isn't in the movie.
No,
like that's not how the
even
eggs
look
work.
like it doesn't even look like that.
No, exactly, which is so strange.
Well,
like,
it's because obviously they're not the same.
Like all I can think of,
the marketing department is not the same as
the egg. The face huggers lay in you.
Yeah,
that's what it looks like. But you can't see that because it's inside people, right? That's the only thing, you know. Yeah. But really, it's the marketing people. This movie poster was made by somebody who had not seen the movie yet, right? You know.
Yeah, but it's still great. Like, it's iconic.
Kind of like the Mad Max poster you had. Somebody had not seen the movie.
But it's iconic, and I think that the putting it in the middle like this is appropriate because it's like, it's pretty basic. It's nothing really like that extraordinary.
But it's very cool.
But it has an advantage of the fact it has a huge advantage. The fact that like. Because it's so iconic, because it's such an iconic film, and it's such a famous poster, it's such a famous tagline, it's such a famous title, even though it's like technically a very really interesting thing about Alien is the way that they took something that was like the most generic possible title, and they turned it into something iconic, just on the strength of the movie itself and the legacy that it ended up having, right? Like to just call your movie Alien.
It's bold. It's very bold.
Very bold because it's just like you could not be more generic. But somehow now, if you say Alien, everyone knows what you mean.
I mean,
what you mean. It's so iconic.
I think a lot of it was helped
title.
by the fact that it's very time and place.
Yeah.
1979.
Yeah.
Any movie with an alien up until that point was probably low budget garbage.
Yeah.
Or I mean, not to say it wasn't entertaining.
Instead, this is low budget awesomeness.
Yeah, exactly. And instead they were like, what if we do the thing where like we make it like it's like a real movie?
Yeah.
Like, you know, we put the effort in, like,
you
know, we're not going to have a huge budget, but we're going to make that budget work. Yeah. And at no point, I mean, I've seen Alien a ton of times. At no point am I like, wow, this looks like low budget. You know, like, there's movies made for that same budget that look like garbage.
Yeah.
And you just
it's good use of its budget.
Yeah, it's very good use of its budget. And they're like, what if...
And it's not super low, don't get me wrong.
No.
It is not like a very, like, it is a decently budgeted movie, especially for the time.
But compared to...
But it's not like a mega... Yeah.
And so, you know, they took the steps necessary to... Like, they earned putting just Alien.
No, I know.
Right?
But what I'm saying
like,
is that it's still a gamble.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like it's a gamble to use that generic of a title, and it's just a gamble that paid off in a crazy way. You know.
Yeah. All right, so that's both of our number threes.
Yeah. So it'll be your two, I guess.
My number two.
Yeah,
so I went with Nosferatu, the Vampire.
Yeah.
Werner Herzog's.
Yeah.
Never heard of this movie before, never seen it.
Really?
Nope.
Have you seen the original?
The original Nosferatu?
The silent movie.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, well, this is basically just like a remake.
Oh, okay.
But like not silent and in 1979 instead of the 20s.
But I thought that is a really nice poster. Super nice painted. I love the work done on the title. It looks very much like a book cover almost, like a really nice book cover, like novel. I mean, yeah, you could really just you remove all the and pop it on there. I think it just like I'm like, so I was like, I saw this, I read what like it was like, it's a remake of and so I put it on my like to watch list because
we actually talked about this.
Oh, did we?
Because the Robert Eggers version is coming out.
Yeah.
And we talked about possibly
doing all three,
like doing a blob type thing, and just doing all the Nosferatu films.
That's a really good idea. I'd forgotten that we talked about
because
that
of the to kind of go into the Robert Eggers version coming out.
Yeah, when we find out when that's going to come out, we should.
Yeah, because there's also a sequel to this version.
Yes,
there's a sequel to the.
I came across that while
remake.
reading the Wikipedia for it. Yeah,
so,
but
yeah.
It's
nice. I mean, it's not really my cup of tea so much. Yeah, like it's got that kind of like dark fantasy kind of book cover type of vibe. Like
I think it's got really good use of like
an Elric kind of,
yes,
it looks like
very Elric of Melbone.
Looks like a Michael Moorcock cover type of thing.
Yeah, so much like could be
not super my kind of thing.
Yeah.
Not to say that it's bad in any way. It's just personal taste. Yeah, this is spoiler tags. This is not on my list, but nothing wrong with it. It's just
a really good contrast between dark and light
not my
on
choice.
it too, which is I think it helps it really pop.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's cool.
But yeah, so my number 2 is Nosferatu. So your number 2.
My number 2 is Being There.
I considered.
So
yeah.
Here's the funny thing, because of course
you didn't love this.
I didn't really like the movie, which
I love
is
this movie.
ironic because it is an extremely highly acclaimed movie. Very.
I mean, that doesn't
but like very highly, like not even debatable.
Yeah.
And I just didn't get it. I think
it didn't do it
just
for you.
Didn't click for me. I just didn't really. But it's an amazing poster. It's just such an interesting image, and it's so attention grabbing. Like to me, like I just think it's very beautiful. I think it's artistically beautiful.
It's a really nice painted poster.
Yeah, I just think it's artistically beautiful. I think the image is very intriguing and striking. I just wish that I liked the movie as much.
You like the poster more than the movie.
to sort of like my imagination of what the movie that's attached to this poster is something like very sort of special, and I don't know what it would be. Like I don't have any specific ideas. That's for the movie to tell me. But unfortunately, the actual movie it
didn't tell you what you wanted.
Just was kind of like, nope, that's not what I was looking for.
Yeah.
But it's undeniably a great poster. This was definitely one that I took out something else to put this in because I felt that I just did not have enough variety. But I'm not sorry that I did because I do think it's excellent. I think it's just a very beautiful poster. And there's a couple of variants of it, and I had a hard time deciding exactly which one to go with. This one's a little too dark, I think. Because it's kind of almost hard to read the text because it's like black text.
It's black on brown,
and and the back the picture is a little too dark, I think. But it was the only one of this specific image that really I could find that was a fully good version.
There's a version of this poster that's not painted, where it's like the scene from the end of the movie, just done in a poster.
Yeah,
and it doesn't. It's not as evocative as this.
Yeah. Free Shavakadu.
Yeah.
No, I just really enjoy the, I don't know, maybe it's like the because I love Mary Poppins so much.
It does have that Mary Poppins.
Even though I know, it's like there is no scene in this movie in which he walks in the air or flies or in any case. It's obviously symbolic, but I don't know, there's just this oddly Mary Poppins-esque aspect to it.
The umbrella, carpet bag,
All right, so it'll be your 1.
This will be my 1.
Okay.
Yeah. So, again, there's a few different versions of this poster.
Yeah.
And actually, this actually isn't my favorite version of the Apocalypse Now poster.
Okay.
My favorite version is from the Redux, which is a variant of this.
Right.
But I couldn't use the Redux one because
that's cheating.
That's cheating.
Redux didn't come out in '79. So the main original theatrical poster is the one that's more red.
It's got the Colonel's face, and I don't like that poster.
So I originally had that on my list.
Yeah.
But the problem was that it was getting to a point where first of all, I don't really like it that much. I like it, but it was I felt it was too much of a compromise because it was am I just putting this here because it's Apocalypse Now?
Yeah.
Or is it actually that good?
Every once in a while, I get caught up while we do these, and I'm like, wait, no, I don't really like this poster that much. I just really like the movie. But the crap, this shouldn't be on my list.
I like the colors of that one. I like that darker red.
And I think that's
obviously
the Redux poster is similar to this, but it has the darker red going.
And obviously the logo is incredible.
But it's the amazing logo, the helicopters,
and considering that I already tried to justify including Black Hole almost purely on the basis of the logo. Apocalypse Now certainly deserves the same treatment.
It's been tons of great logos. This, Mad Max. We've had great logos this whole... I mean, hey, my first pick to China Syndrome, that movie's just a logo.
But I was getting to the point where I was like, okay, almost all of my picks are like dark red and orange.
Oh, yeah.
Like
so you had to...
aesthetic sort of, because I had... Apocalypse Now on there, and I had something else which I won't mention yet, just because.
I did see number one. Yeah.
Well, funny enough, it's not. But,
okay.
But there was. I'll say afterwards, just so that I don't mess anything up. But there was a few that I was just kind of like, these all kind of have the same aesthetic. And funny enough, by me swapping things out here and there to like make it more diverse and stuff, and to kind of get rid of some of those sort of real compromise decisions, I ended up kind of dropping all of those.
That's
which is like
just restarting
like I didn't really
the whole
need
list.
to.
Yeah.
I guess the Black Hole one is the closest to that because that still has kind of that dark reddish orange kind of feel a little bit. But yeah, the Apocalypse Now where it's like with the sun and it's
just the river
and all that, definitely a lot better than the face ones. But because I was sort of distracted by the fact that because the face ones were the original theatrical actual release. I'm not sure. I mean, this is still vintage, obviously.
No, it's.
I don't know if maybe this was like an international version.
Yeah, this is an international version.
Which would make sense.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't really too sure what to do about that, so I decided to not go with it. But yeah, of course. I mean, Box Snap.
Yeah, it's so
I mean, we just talked about this in relation to our last week's episode, our top 5 that we did on what we've watched. I mean,
I also found a version of this that is not an official release version, which is why I didn't use it, but it's like for like hanging on your wall version,
right?
Where it doesn't have the text at the bottom.
Sure.
Just
the
picture is bigger. It's just a bigger picture.
Yeah.
And Apocalypse Now is just moved down to down towards the bottom. And I was like, if I was still a guy who put movie posters on his wall, like that would be, but just the color palette, the evocativeness of it, and that logo just go forever for me. So,
well, I can pretty much guarantee that you have no idea what my number one is.
Not now. Nope. Actually, that's not true. I have a thought that it might be something, but we'll see. All right, we'll about to find out. Here we go.
Tourist Trap.
Oh, I saw this one.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if I like this poster or it's just weird.
All right, well, we almost always have like a horror movie on here somewhere, and I guess Alien could also technically count.
I almost had a different one.
Although I feel like Alien is so much its own thing, it's almost like I almost don't even think of it as a horror movie. But Tourist Trap is actually a really good movie.
Oh, okay.
I actually didn't see it until like quite relatively recently. It was like one of those ones that I caught when I was watching a lot of like when like Shudder came out.
Oh,
I was watching a lot more of the and I was watching those the Joe Bob marathon things where they had those episodes where they did and they talk about the movies in between on the breaks and stuff like that. And to one of the ones on there was Tourist Trap, and I really enjoyed it. And it's a great poster. It's just I decided I was very debating over order. I'm actually kind of glad that I ended up doing the order I did, because it ended up that like our Mad Max picks were right next to each other, our Alien picks were right next to each other.
That was 2 and 3,
fit really well with that.
4 and 5 or 3 and 4. Sorry.
Yeah, so it actually made that fit really well. So I'm kind of glad I ended up doing it that way. But ultimately, I decided to go with Tourist Trap as number 1, even though it is like probably the least like iconic movie on all of these lists, or of either of these lists. But
you like the poster the most.
It's the most like eye-catching and memorable, and sort of like and maybe in a way it's almost more memorable because there isn't this other baggage attached to it like, oh, it's this iconic, oh, it's Mad Max, or it's Alien, or it's like
you're able to separate the poster from the movie a little more.
Yeah, even though like there's no real need to, because I have seen the movie and I really like it. But it's not in the same way as like an Alien or a Mad Max.
Well, this was, I mean, this year for us doing this was definitely like the most, like, I've seen these movies once. Like, often it's real hit or miss, but it's like I've seen everyone except for the China Syndrome.
Right.
You know?
But yeah.
And even then I was familiar with it. I've done, I guess that's not true. I hadn't seen Nosferatu.
Another good tagline: every year, young people disappear.
Oh, yeah. I was so, actually, it was funny. I was so distracted by, like, the creepy face and the camera and everything. I didn't even really notice that it had a tagline.
Yeah. Well, it's right at the very top.
Yeah.
But, it's, I mean, I like the movie. I like the movie a lot.
I'm really like, what is going on? Is that like a face on a face? Like, is that a mask? What is going on? It's a mask. Yeah, it is. It's something.
Yeah, it's definitely
really great coloring.
Yeah, I just really like it. I think it's really striking. I think it's really memorable. I think it's exactly what a good horror movie... and this is early, too, right? Because this is 79, so this is before, like, the explosion of... Like, this
80s horror,
like, this is definitely... This, like, one of the cool things about this movie is that... I mean, like, yeah, it's after, like, the first Halloween, I guess, and stuff, but like, it's quite... It's kind of came in a little before... the huge boom of from like throughout the 80s of like the sort of slash thing, and it's not quite like a slasher movie. Like, it has some similar aspects, but it has some different stuff too. That is what really made it stand out for me. Yeah, I really enjoy it. But it's not like amazing. Like, it's not like an iconic movie. Like the way, like, you know, like I say, it's not an Alien. It's not a Mad Max. It's not a, it's not an iconic movie in that way. But I really enjoy it, and I think it's an absolutely killer poster.
Yeah.
And it is definitely my number one for this year, just because...
Be careful when renting movies. And like, Parent Trap's all out. Well, we'll rent Tourist Trap instead. It's similar, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Very similar.
Very similar, yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, lots of great posters.
So the other one that I ended up not picking, because again, it was that same exact... dark red orange aesthetic, was Time After Time.
Yeah, I had that one. That was one of my maybes.
I came very close, but I'm not. It was one of those things where I'm like, well, not only does it have that same exact aesthetic again, it's like not the greatest poster. Yeah. Like, I want to like it more than I do.
That's how that's exactly my thought on it.
Close, but it's like
I'm like, this is cool, click. But it's missing something.
Yeah, it doesn't quite click.
Yeah,
I love the movie, of course.
Yeah,
but it didn't quite click.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember, there was something else too that was kind of along similar.
There is one that probably would have replaced the China Syndrome if I could have found a half decent picture of it, and that was the Muppet Movie poster.
Oh,
because it's a painted poster.
Yeah.
It's got the whole cast.
It's
really cool. It's I
was
like
really
it as a
disappointed
poster
because I wanted to, like, I didn't remember what the Muppet Movie poster looked like.
It's all them hanging out of the Studebaker,
and I was like, man, Muppet Movie 79. I bet it has an awesome poster. And I looked it up and I was like,
it's got the
poster.
It's got the fake Gone with the Wind bit at the top.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
And every single version I found was either like just like a bad version of the poster, like wrinkles or lines, or because it was just like a picture, like a scan of an actual poster, or the color on it was all like weird.
Yeah.
I did find one fairly decent picture of it, but it had like watermarks all over it. I'm like, well, that's no use for our purposes anyway. So I was like, oh well. But again, I don't think it would have ended up actually making it on the list anyway. But it was the one I spent the most time.
So the other, the two main things. So when I was talking about how like there was two main aesthetics that I noticed was very common for this year.
Yeah.
Was like the two main ones was either that dark red or orange or some combination thereof.
Yeah.
Type of and black kind of composition. Was like all over the place. Or the other one was that, which neither of us picked any of, but it's extremely common for 79, is what almost every comedy has, which is that character caricature style,
Oh, yes.
almost like Mad Magazine type
Yes.
of artwork.
Yes. I hate that.
Of like
Yeah.
the characters from the movie or
Yeah.
like the actors.
Yeah. Do not like
and
that.
with like sort of sticking out in weird directions and kind of all wacky,
real
and,
goofy.
like,
That was just like throughout like the
There
late
is
60s and
probably,
70s. Yeah, every single one was that
like
way.
half the movies
Yeah.
on that year have posters like that, and basically every movie that's like a comedy or like a hijinks movie has like a poster
Yeah.
like that. I was like, holy crap, that is insane! Like there are so many.
Yeah.
and neither of us picked any of them.
Yeah.
Because it's lame. Yeah, no 1941 even. Which
Yeah.
is like a little bit like that, but kind of balances out a little bit too.
Yeah.
I know you were talking about 1941 a whole bunch before.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure.
That's an alright poster.
I wasn't sure how that was gonna go.
Yeah. It's fine. It's one of those like I like parts of it, but it's overall it's
Well, I mean that's the thing, right? Like that's actually, I mean, speaking of, that's another good point to bring up is that that's a common issue with a lot of posters is that you'll be like, well, I like this bit here and this bit here, but then there's like this bit and this bit that doesn't.
Oh, there is a number of posters where like I like the image, and then like the title placement or font or just how the title is presented,
or
just
putting
like
the little boxes with
it just
with the
ruins
actors'
it.
faces.
Oh yeah, you just covered up all the good parts of the poster with like basically advertisement, which is what they are, you know.
Yeah.
So I
but
understand.
they're also works of art, so you know.
All right, well, let's spin the wheel and find out what we're doing next week. Might take a couple of spins here because we want to get some a little more recent.
Put me on the wheel.
I'll just edit it down to the winning spin, but maybe we'll get lucky and get it right on the first spin here. Probably not. We got quite a few here.
Well,
oh, there we go.
Interesting.
2020.
Interesting.
That only took about 6 spins to get there, but we got there. That's very recent. That is super recent compared to anything we've done.
And it's COVID year.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Which is interesting.
Oh, that's really gonna be weird.
No, it should be fine. I thought for a second it was going to hit the, what was it, like 2003 or whatever.
Yeah, that was, we got close to 2003.
But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like, it keeps going around about the same amount. So when they're all linear like that, it won't jump.
Yeah.
Like, it needs to be more randomized.
Yeah. I think it's because of the amount we have on there is the... So, all right. So, next episode will be 2020.
Interesting.
Huh.
Yeah. I was sort of hoping for something more in the range of, like, 2014 or...
Yeah.
Or 2009 or, you know...
We just skipped the entirety of the late 90s and
like,
the aughts.
Well, also because, like, we did a top 5 of movies for that era quite recently.
Oh, yeah,
so
sure. That's going to be
interesting.
Yeah. I mean, again, often doesn't affect it one way or the other.
No, but it does make it kind of interesting because we're going to be going back through a lot of the same...
Looking at the same movies.
Like, research material, as it were. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for this episode of 27 by 40. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. Until then, I'm Chris.
The Senate.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.